You need to run away by next Monday.
It was a call from my mother-in-law who had disappeared a year ago. Honestly, I didn't like her very much. When we lived together, she would often make snide remarks about various things. I even thought it would be better if she disappeared. And then she actually did. "Where are you?" I thought it might be my fault somehow, but hearing her voice, I felt relieved. But at that moment, I still didn't understand anything. The call from my mother-in-law was just the beginning of the events that were about to unfold. My name is Mandy Jones. Shortly after becoming a working adult, I lost my parents to illness and found myself struggling without anyone to rely on. At the age of 27, during a short trip to take a break, I met William, who would become my husband. We discovered that we were from the same hometown and immediately hit it off. I ended up sharing the fact that I didn't have parents anymore, and he kindly listened to my story. After returning to our hometown, we continued to meet frequently, and within less than a year, we got married. I moved in with him and his parents. My father-in-law owned a large real estate agency in the area and was wealthy, owning a significant amount of land.
We're just a normal family. In their 30 years of marriage, I've never seen my parents argue.
Wow, they seem like such a loving couple.
Yeah, I hope we can be like them.
I felt completely at ease and reassured by William's reliability and kindness. At that time, I was filled with anticipation, believing that happy days would continue forever. However, a few days after moving in, I noticed something strange. My mother-in-law, Patricia, was acting oddly. While she was kind in front of the family, her demeanor changed drastically when we were alone, and she became suddenly cold towards me.
Is this how you cleaned? Unbelievable. It'll be turned into a garbage house.
She would often criticize my cleaning and make me redo it countless times. I desperately tried to earn her approval, but no matter what I did, I couldn't win her favor.
This house isn't suitable for you. You should just pack up and leave.
I still remember the chill that ran down my spine when she said those words so clearly. Despite enduring it, a decisive event happened on my husband's birthday. On that day, I was making a homemade cake for William's birthday. Just as it was finished, my mother-in-law barged into the kitchen.
You're going to feed my son such a terrible-looking cake made by an amateur? Is this some kind of sabotage?
After hurling insults, she attempted to throw the cake directly into the trash. I tried to stop her, and we ended up in a physical struggle, causing her to fall over. At the sound of the commotion, my husband rushed over. As I tried to explain the situation, to my surprise, my mother-in-law portrayed me as the villain and began to cry while pleading to him.
Mandy suddenly pushed me. I don't want such a scary daughter-in-law.
Despite her convincing performance, I had previously confided in William about some of the things that had been happening, so he took my side. This incident also reached my father-in-law, George, and scolded my mother-in-law for her behavior. Unable to bear the situation any longer, she sulked and lashed out in anger.
If everyone is going to treat me like a nobody, then I might as well disappear.
She yelled loudly and then locked herself in her room. I thought she was just being dramatic, trying to get attention from my husband and father-in-law. However, the next morning, we found out that she had left behind divorce papers and disappeared. Did she really leave for good? I asked anxiously, but my father-in-law just smiled as if nothing had happened.
She was treating you badly behind us, right? That's why I kicked her out. Don't worry, She'll come back once she's cooled off. The divorce papers were just for show.
His expression remained kindly, but I couldn't shake the feeling of discomfort at his extreme reaction. However, my husband seemed to have no doubts about his father's actions. I wondered if it was right for my father-in-law to do this to a wife who had never fought with him for 30 years. However, I felt hesitant to interfere in their marital affairs and decided to silently observe. But even though we thought she would return soon, a week passed and she still hadn't come back. At this point, I even started to worry. Is Patricia really okay? I hope nothing bad has happened to her or she hasn't been involved in some sort of incident.
She'll be fine. This village is peaceful, you know. Maybe she's just gone back to her parents' house to relax.
I was exasperated by his carefree response. However, that night, I witnessed something shocking. My husband was rummaging through my mother-in-law's room, humming to himself as he packed her belongings into trash bags. Seeing him haphazardly discard her belongings, I couldn't believe it was just a simple cleanup. Could it be that they've already accepted she won't be coming back? I couldn't shake off the increasing anxiety about my mother-in-law's safety and what my husband and father-in-law were thinking. Despite suggesting multiple times that we should search for her, my father-in-law just shook his head.
We know where she is. She doesn't want to come back yet, so leave her be.
His firm tone left me unable to push further. And before I knew it, a year had passed since my mother-in-law disappeared. Around that time, there was a significant event that I might have become pregnant. My attention was fully focused on that.
Let's go to the obstetrician next Monday. I hope we have a baby.
I smiled at my husband's excited voice and looked forward to the appointment at the hospital. Amidst all this, I received a call from my mother-in-law on my phone.
Are you still at home?
I was truly surprised to hear her voice after a year. Despite our disagreement before she disappeared, I still felt responsible if something had happened to her. Knowing she was safe, regardless of how uneasy our relationship was, brought me relief. Where on earth are you?
That doesn't matter right now. What's important is that you leave the house immediately.
Her usual condescending tone made my relief vanish, and I felt a strong urge to push back. I told her there was a possibility that I was pregnant and already made an appointment for the checkup. So, I won't obey your orders. However, her response to this was unexpected.
Then, all the more reason. You need to run away by next Monday.
What? What do you mean? At that moment, my mother-in-law revealed a shocking truth to me. The incident that seemed to have been resolved when she contacted me, but it was just the tip of the iceberg, hiding a much darker reality. I understand. But I won't run away. After hearing my mother-in-law's words, I struggled with my decision. If what she said was true, running away wouldn't solve anything. I decided to take action to confirm the truth with my own eyes. And so, amidst swirling uncertainties, Monday arrived. I got into the car with my husband and father-in-law, heading to the obstetrician in the neighboring town. Throughout the journey, they showed genuine concern for my well-being, appearing to be nothing but good husband and father-in-law. However, unable to accept their kindness wholeheartedly, I had mixed emotions in the car. After finishing my examination at the hospital, I was waiting in the waiting room with my husband and father-in-law when an elderly nurse approached us.
Regarding the earlier results, Mandy, you are indeed pregnant.
Really? Yes.
Beside him, My father-in-law nodded repeatedly, looking satisfied.
Finally, I'll get to meet my first grandchild. I'm looking forward to it.
At that moment, when my father-in-law muttered those words, the nurse's demeanor suddenly changed. She glared at my father-in-law and husband with wide-opened eyes, and she shouted loudly.
A first grandchild, huh? Liar. You're all despicable.
My husband was taken aback by the sudden outburst, but as he gazed closely at the nurse's face, he seemed to finally realize something.
Are you? Mom? Why are you here? Dressed as a nurse.
It's no wonder my husband didn't realize it. My mother-in-law had disguised herself with a wig and glasses to avoid being easily recognized. While my husband and father-in-law were stunned, I quickly moved behind my mother-in-law. She shielded me, a cold sweat running down her face.
This hospital is run by a friend of mine. I've been hiding here all along.
So, this is where you've been hiding. I was hoping you'd have collapsed somewhere.
I was left speechless by my father-in-law's uncharacteristic remark. The kind tone he usually had was nowhere to be found. Instead, he looked like a villainous old man.
So, is the pregnancy a lie?
It's true. But that's why I can't let Mandy go with you.
As my mother-in-law held my hand, I felt her small hand trembling. From this, I realized that she was truly afraid of my father-in-law.
We finally have our first grandchild. We need to take her home and let her rest.
What do you mean, first grandchild? Is your memory getting worse?
As my mother-in-law spoke, 3 young female nurses who had been nearby stepped forward, blocking my husband and father-in-law. Seeing their faces, my husband was visibly shaken.
You? What are you doing here?
It seems William remembered well. Of course, I wasn't planning to let you get away with saying you forgot.
Seeing my husband's frustrated expression, I couldn't help but feel sad. The young women were not nurses but girls from the village where William's family lived. It was none other than me who had gathered them here. The stories I heard from your mother were true after all. As I watched my husband and father-in-law's facades crumble away, I felt like reality was about to shatter me. I learned of this shocking truth from a phone call from my mother-in-law. There was a reason she urged me to escape from my in-laws' house as soon as possible.
William has already fathered children with 3 different women and heartlessly abandoned them. He even threatened to kick them out of the village if anyone made a fuss and has been hiding it.
However, it was hard to believe such a dramatic story right away. First of all, my husband and father-in-law were kind in front of me, and my mother-in-law was always against me.
I've been too afraid to tell anyone about my husband for a long time. But you've always faced me head-on. I couldn't let such a good person like you be left in the dark.
Even through the phone, her trembling voice didn't sound like she was lying. So, I decided to confirm the truth before Monday's appointment and made this plan. I talked to them too. They've all been holding a grudge against you for a long time. When I told them about today, they were happy to come. I asked them to help me create a situation where the true nature of our husbands could be revealed. All 3 of them agreed without hesitation. Just seeing their reactions gave a glimpse of the depth of the wrongdoing our husbands had committed. Why did you hurt so many people?
Don't get it twisted. I am the victim here.
He began making outrageous excuses with a brash attitude.
I needed an heir. I'm wealthy and powerful. But these women could only produce girls. They're just from poor bloodlines. utterly useless.
But you loved them, didn't you? Why say such cruel things?
I didn't love them. Women are just tools for producing children.
Hearing such words delivered with a straight face sent shivers down my spine. Alongside my anger, questions began to arise within me. If you have no attachment to women, then why did you marry me? You used to say kind words to me.
Because there were only incompetents in the village, so I was looking for women elsewhere. Then, you just happened to catch my eye when I was on a trip. Plus, I liked your face.
My husband replied, not showing any remorse but rather wearing a proud smile.
You were all alone in the world, weren't you? It's good you have a family now. Just give birth to children and then focus on childcare and housework as a maid. Well, that's if the child is a boy.
If the baby in my belly were a girl, he would have easily abandoned me too? As I already lost my parents and had no support, I must have seemed like the perfect target for his plan. His intentions were clear, and I felt nothing but despair. You said it to me, didn't you? Let's become a couple like your parents, without any fights. Was that also a lie?
That's true. My parents were the ideal couple. I aim to be like them.
It's not like we never fought.
My mother-in-law, who had been silent until now, interjected.
I was just obeying because your father was violent and scary. I endured being treated horribly all by myself.
Finally, I understood why her hands were shaking. My mother-in-law had been enduring frightening experiences from my father-in-law for a long time. My husband, mistakenly idealizing their master-servant-like relationship, took them as a model. Despite witnessing the village girls being victimized, my mother-in-law couldn't act due to her fear of my father-in-law.
But I've made up my mind too. To prevent further victims, we'll protect Mandy.
I won't let you lay a finger on her either. Seeing us united, my father-in-law clicked his tongue in frustration.
Perhaps I didn't discipline you enough.
With that, my father-in-law aggressively approached us, raising his fist toward my mother-in-law and me. But in the next moment, other male nurses rushed over and tackled him, preventing him from going any further.
Who do you think you're dealing with?
True to his nature, he immediately tried to resort to violence. He shouted arrogantly, but we were no longer in the village but in a hospital in a different town. Once out of the village, his power amounted to nothing. Unable to do anything further, he was restrained along with my husband. Please call the police. I'm begging you.
The police? Wait a minute, I haven't done anything yet. Unlike my father, I shouldn't have any reason to be arrested.
What did you say? Are you planning to betray your own father? The prestigious Jones family will be shocked to hear this.
My father-in-law remained arrogant, but I was no longer afraid. Supporting my mother-in-law, I faced him head-on. The prestigious lineage you're so proud of will crumble because of your foolish actions. News involving the police will spread quickly in the village.
Stop it. If that happens, we'll lose our dignity.
Yes, and not just that. You'll lose everything, including your place. Suddenly, my husband, who had been assertive just moments ago, completely changed his tone, adopting a soothing voice.
Honey, I was threatened by my father, that's why I said those awful things. Deep down, I love you. And all those stories about other women were lies. You're the only one I've ever loved.
Whether their stories are lies or not, It's not up to you to decide. I'll be the judge of that. And I'll do DNA tests on the children to find out who's telling the truth." At my words, my husband turned pale. It was as if just that reaction alone revealed everything. With my husband and father-in-law looking utterly miserable, they were pushed into the police car and taken to the station. The next day, my father-in-law was released, but rumors spread throughout the village like wildfire. My husband found himself completely isolated due to his past misdeeds. He was sued by the other women, and after DNA testing confirmed his paternity, he was ordered to pay each of them $30,000 in compensation. I naturally divorced my husband and received a total of $150,000 in compensation and child support. My father-in-law's real estate business closed down, and feeling unwelcome in the village, they both fled hastily. Later, I heard through the grapevine that they were living together in a rundown apartment without a bathroom. As for me, I decided to start fresh and move to the neighboring town. I asked my mother-in-law, who had nowhere else to go, to live with me. My mother-in-law deeply regretted her decision to run away once before. However, through this ordeal, I felt like we truly became mother and daughter. Now, we live happily under the same roof, eagerly awaiting the arrival of the baby.